What, no tips? They broke this chapter into 3 sections? Good God. The lights at home were dazzlingly bright. Suddenly, they reminded me of how hungry I was. I checked the clock and saw that it was almost 7. So yeah, he has quite a while to still do all the burying and such before dawn. I thought for sure it was 2 or 3 in the morning already. I was surprised at how messed up my biological clock had gotten just from this one night. There was a warm light coming from the curtains in the living room window. The worlds between here and what was beyond those curtains were so different. If only that man hadn't shown up, I would have been in that light. I'd still be excited from the festival, and I'd be talking to my parents about how much fun I had with all my friends. And then, even though they made a hot meal for me, I would have eaten way too much at the stalls, barely eaten any of it, and gone back to my own room. No doubt I'd crawl back into my futon and easily let myself fall asleep. But right now it was completely different. There wasn't a single ember of warmth from those weak streetlights. Right now, I was unconnected to any time spent with my family, and there was neither warm food nor the time to allow myself to sleep. My body exposed to the cold rain, I knew that I simply had to spur myself on to accomplish what I must. I realized how timid, how cowardly I was becoming. For what reason did I need to kill someone, even if it felt this terrible? I'd lost sight of my purpose. I selected the fastest, most fundamental way of saving Satoko, and executed it without hesitation. That man was dead. He was gone. He would never, ever hurt Satoko again. We all thought frantically for days on end about Satoko's problem, and finally, with no options, we gave up. And I had solved it in one night. By myself, without anyone's help. Right about now, Satoko would be making dinner for her uncle, despite not knowing when he'd return, and she might be spending the night trembling in fear of whether he'd yell at her for how it tasted. But her uncle wouldn't come home. She wouldn't have to fear his wrath, nor let him make her feel sad. I see. I did it. I successfully saved Satoko. All I'd been thinking about for a long time was killing that man, and I'd forgotten the feeling that it was actually all to save her.
Suka.
I did something good. That's right. I did something good, didn't I? I felt hot tears coming from my eyes, and that's when I first realized the exhaustion I'd been feeling was actually guilt. The blade of guilt, for a while now, had just been scraping away with its tip, hurting my heart. It felt so bad I couldn't stand it. It was throbbing painfully. It hurt so much, it was so painful that I cried. I cried tears of joy at saving Satoko. I didn't know why really anymore. I just cried. My tears fell and fell. As I stood there for a while, coming to terms with those warm tears, my heart was comforted a little. Alright, Keiichi Maebara. That's enough. There's nothing to regret or feel ashamed about. Both my body and mind were thoroughly exhausted, and that was a fact. It was only natural I couldn't feel anything. Even tomorrow and the day after that, I might not be able to feel anything for a while. But there was one thing that was true. There was the undisputable fact that I had saved Satoko. One day, we would surely be rewarded. One day, I would be proud of how distressing an enterprise I had undertaken to get Satoko's smile back. And so that I could wait for that day, I had to put the finishing touches on this night. If I left it undone, everything I'd accomplished today would be for naught. I looked back up, up at the sky, which didn't look like it would stop raining anytime soon. Then I rubbed my eyes and summoned forth energy from my core again. How long did I plan on spacing out? This isn't the time for daydreaming. Someone could find that corpse this very moment. That pessimistic thought was the proof the very natural emotion of fear had returned to me. As I allowed the fear to spur me onwards, I went to look for the other shovel and lantern inside the storage room. It was fortunate I remembered what it looked like around the streetlight the body was near. With how dark it was quite possible I wouldn't have been able to look for it either. I didn't realize that when I left the place, so the idea of memorizing the spot hadn't even crossed my mind. That's why I had to call it fortunate that I managed to get back to the body like this. The corpse was now located in a big, muddy puddle. Half the thing had already sunk into the swamp-like pool of water. I only realized afterward, but there was an unused irrigation channel right nearby clogged with fallen leaves and dirt, and there was rainwater flowing in from there. My shoes had been washed with water for a long time now, so without any hesitation, I stepped into the puddle. The whole muddy stream started flowing back, luckily. I couldn't leave any slight traces like bloodstains. The rain was like a blessing from heaven. I checked around me, paying very close attention, then turned off the lantern. It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments, and once I managed to reach a streetlight on the other side, I was able to make out even faint lights. I struck the shovel into the puddle right next to the corpse. The ground was even looser here than I thought, and the shovel's tip easily slid inside it. I had to hurry and dig. If I took too much time, I might lose my energy and strength again. It felt almost like digging a hole in the sand at the beach. It was easy to dig, but no matter how wet, the muddy water kept flowing in, covering the hole. The digging wasn't going as well as I'd hoped. I dug, and the water would go in, so I couldn't get a sense of how deep it was. The only way for me to measure it was to bury my own foot in the mud. I'm digging just fine. It's all right, don't be disheartened. Dig, dig, dig. Occasionally a car would come by on the road, and I'd hurry to hide myself in the trees. Everyone was only passing through. They wouldn't have their eyes peeled in this kind of darkness. I understood it logically, but still couldn't help but hide. What I was really scared of wasn't quite that one of those cars would coincidentally happen to witness me here. It was that the distance I could spot cars from was getting gradually shorter. First, I noticed splashing sounds from really far away as cars drove through them. I started noticing them less and less, and with the car that passed by, I didn't notice till its headlights were upon me. I felt my senses growing duller by the second. If someone were to take a peek in secret as I was burying the body at the worst possible time, maybe I wouldn't even notice. The moment I thought that, I took a good look all around me. I roused off my half-asleep senses and searched for signs of presence nearby. Yeah, it is kind of natural. He's freaking exhausted. What if I found someone was spying on me from the trees? Tomitake Flash! KTN. Tomitake's gonna Tien Shinhan his way into, catching Keiichi doing this. Then Keiichi's just gonna have to kill him too. So sad. A carnivorous feeling snarled at me, glaring. If there was, then I would dig another hole. I'd come this far already. In order to achieve perfection, I didn't care how much more I had to pay. I didn't know what kind of face I was making at the time, but it was definitely a fervently glaring one. My five senses reached the conclusion. Yeah, I'm not sure he would be able to kill anyone else right now. He would probably try, and then fall flat on his face and pass out. and drown in the rain. My five senses reached the conclusion that nobody was present. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. Yeah, Tomatake is freaking ripped, man. How long have I been digging this mud out of here? It was deep enough for it to go up to my knees. Maybe this was enough. Maybe I'd throw the corpse in as a test. I swallow, getting my breathing under control. Despite how much I'd beaten him, I was afraid of touching the corpse. So instead I dragged it by the feet to the hole. It took more than just a waggle and a tug to do it. But of course, it did. Considering this man's weight was easily 80 kilograms. That's it? He ain't that big. I rallied all my strength and dragged him. At this point, my groundless fears that he might suddenly start moving again had vanished long ago. His body fit perfectly into the muddy hole. It was more than deep enough. Alright, let's bury him. Quickly, quickly, quickly! If I did a perfect job of burying it here, everything would be over. I'd hide it in the hole and none of this would ever have happened. When I realized I only had a little farther to go to finish everything, I was racked with pointless anxiety like I was in a race against time. It was like I was absorbed in a delusion that if I didn't bury the body quickly, it might come back to life. In any case, in a great rush, I poured mud and dirt into the hole. If I didn't work efficiently, someone might find me here. Until now, I figured if someone saw, I'd just kill them, but not anymore. I was arrested with such absolute fear that if someone saw me, it would be over. As I finished the work off, it was a total mess. I drew the surface of the shovel across the ground, trying to make it flat. I was completely covered in mud at that point. The rain washed the mud off my body, but not off my now blackened clothing. My body and mind were caked with panic, with fear, with rain and sweat and mud. My shoulders heaving, I threw down the shovel and sat in the mud. I was so exhausted that I wanted to lie right down here and sleep. It was over. This time, for real, it was over. The man was now in the bottom of the wet dirt. Right this moment, there were traces that this place had been dug up, but the rain and flowing muddy water would completely cover it all within moments. Yeah, it was over. Yeah, I have a feeling this is only the beginning. Then I fell over backwards, face up in the mud. Raindrops pelted my face without mercy, but I didn't care. After staying there for a while, resting my mind, I got up again. It was over. So let's go home. You already buried the whole thing. So now, it's like it never happened. It never happened, so there's no reason for me to stay out here and get rained on. I wobbled to my feet. I wouldn't use the shovel anymore. I considered disassembling it, but I didn't have the strength in my absolute exhaustion. I didn't really need to take it apart anyway. Dragging the shovel behind me, I headed towards the light. I stood up my bike. It had been laying in the grass by the road. I didn't know how I was going to get the still assembled shovel into the front basket. I put the shovel down the back of my shirt like I'd done with the baseball bat. Unlike the bat, the corner of it was on my back, making it very painful. Plus, if I relaxed my posture even a little, it would fall out behind me. I ended up having to carry the shovel in my left hand and ride my bike using only my right hand. You know, you probably could have laid it across your handlebars and used it like that. I'm just saying. Not only was I in a state of total exhaustion, this was a downpour. One hand on the handlebars, I was swaying to and fro like a drunk. But I didn't care. Even swaying like this, I get a little closer to home every time I pedaled. I saw two lights swaying slowly in front of me. A car was approaching. Yeah, no, I need to get out of the way. From far away in the shadows of the darkness, a car appeared. Its dazzling lights washed over me. The driver made a short honk of the horn to inform me I was in the middle of the road. I have to get out of the way. I kept telling myself that, but not only was I riding one-handed, I was so exhausted I couldn't do anything. Wobble, 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 and wobble. I meandered about, not going to the right or left. The driver decided to swerve out of the way right in front of me, and without lowering its speed too much, steadily came towards me. Its outline grew larger in my vision, and telling myself again that I really needed to get out of the way, I jerked the handlebars in one direction, then lost my balance and fell over, bike and all. My whole body splayed out, and one foot got caught in the bike. That was seriously bad. My drowsiness quickly vanished, and just a cold sweat broke out on my skin. The driver recklessly spun the wheel to the left, made a counterclockwise U-turn, came up right up to me, and stopped. The driver's seat door opened, and the driver came out. "You idiot, what are you doing here?" I was pretty sure someone would yell at me like that. Oh no! No. It was a woman's voice, and one I knew. I lifted my face off the ground and looked at her.
Takano-san.
Yeah, not her. It was raining far too hard to see the moon. Takano-san unfolded an umbrella and it smiled as she spoke. The smile was for some reason uncanny, like she'd seen right through me. Out of all the people I could have met, I got the sudden feeling that this was the one I wanted to see the least. You think? The umbrella would have just gotten in the way of the murder. I mean, nothing. She'd come here via car. She wouldn't have known what I was just doing. Yeah, Oishi probably would have been the worst person to meet, but Takano and Tomatake are not far behind. And yet she smiled, as though she knew everything. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. She always makes that mysterious-looking smile, remember? Don't let her on anything, lest you dig your own grave. And the rumors of my death have been greatly... I mean, no, I wasn't. That never happened. Takano, you're not being cute. I should tell a good lie here. If I could just do that, things would work out. That's actually not a bad lie. Except he completely louses that up.
ほっつき歩いてましたから。
それにしたって、あなた向こうからこっちに向かってきたんでしょ。
I said I've been wandering a while.
ダムとは場所も方向も正反対よ。
Takano-san was clearly aware that something exceedingly abnormal was happening with me. And as she played her little word game, she was enjoying driving me into a corner. Maybe she had a vague guess, just from the situation of what I've been doing. My timing really sucked to run into her, of all people, of all the times. At the very end, I could only be frustrated at my terrible luck. I'd done so much, and the end was literally right around the corner. So why at the very, very end, did I run into her, of all people? What do you do, Keiichi Maebara? You're still holding something that could be a dangerous weapon. Will you silence Takano-san? Even if it would be simple to kill Takano-san, dealing with the car she'd come in afterward would be an issue. I couldn't drive a car. It was completely different from a motorbike. But even if the car was here, as long as there was no proof I killed her. Yeah. In tonight's downpour, without any prior planning, all by coincidence, a hit and run. As long as I didn't drop any handkerchiefs with my initials on them, they'd never know I killed her. A black flame quietly smoldered and raged in the core of my body.
怖い顔、いじめすぎちゃったかしら。
Takano-san started to laugh by herself, then thankfully stopped talking about it. But the dark clouds in my mind didn't go away.
それはそうと。いつまで自転車にまたがったまま地面に這いつくばってるつもり？そろそろどいてくれるかしら。
If I moved, she would leave. So I tried to get the bicycle up and out of the way, but then twisted my ankle in it and fell over. There was a sharp pain in the ankle I'd twisted. This is nonsense. A sprained ankle now?
あら、大丈夫？ひょっとしてひねっちゃった？
Takano-san squats down and takes a good look at the ankle I keep rubbing. She compares it to my facial expression, apparently trying to gauge how bad the wound was.
立てる？
I didn't expect to, but I couldn't even stand up. It was all I could do to shamelessly wriggle on the ground like a caterpillar. Takano-san looked at her watch, then at her car, after thinking for a moment, opened the passenger seat door, and then gave me her shoulder to stand up with.
家まで送るわ。なんだか私が跳ねたみたいで嫌な気持ちだけどね。
すみません。
見捨てるのも気の毒だし、私が優しい人でよかったわね。
Uh-huh. Nobody good has ever called themselves a nice person, but that would have been a terrible thing to say to someone holding me up like this. I took Takano's hands and slid down in the passenger seat. Takano-san went around the back and looked at my bike on the ground.
自転車は後日ってことにはならない？
I could clearly tell from her face that she thought it would be a pain since it would be heavy and it would get her car dirty. But my bike has the name Maebara written on it. I couldn't leave it out here like this. Yeah, it's the same car artwork they've used at least twice.
ないと困るんで。
トランクはもういっぱいなの。後部座席なんかに積んだらシートが泥で汚れちゃうわ。 まあ、あなたを乗せた時点でもう十分に汚れてるんだけれども。
I turn back to the back seat and see someone's folding bicycle there already. It still looked big enough to fit my bike in there as well. My expression reflected my thoughts, and the exact thought seemed to get through to her.
わかったわわかったわ。積んであげる。今夜だけはお姉さんも優しくしてあげるわ。
Takano-san continued with her mean jokes, but she hoisted my bike and loaded it into the back seat for me. The mean jokes were one thing, but couldn't she do something about that eerie smile of hers? And, even more importantly than the bike, I didn't want to leave the shovel here. The shovel could be directly connected to the buried body and to me.
ついでで申し訳ないんですけど、シャベルもお願いしていいですか？
Takano-san gave me a clearly dubious expression.
シャベル？別にいいけど、大事なもの？
Well, according to his lie, he came all the way out here for it. I mean, you know. The more I talk, the worse it gets for me. That's how I felt, so I didn't force myself to answer her. Eventually, outlasted by my silence, Takano-san gave a short shrug and sighed.
はいはい、わかったわ。
Why does he still have it? Well, let's see, he was carrying it on the bike to take it home.
僕はシャベルがないと困っちゃうんでしょ。そんな怖い目しなくてもいいわよ。
Yeah, throwing it away would have been worse because, you know. Yeah, he didn't want to go all the way to the swamp because he didn't want his parents asking questions about where the shovels went. I'm going to guess that was the thinking. Takano-san brought over the shovel that was laying in the middle of the road. I clutched it like I'd never let go of it again. Takano-san watched me with a puzzled look.
じゃ、行くわよ。前原くんのお家ってあの前原屋敷でいいんでしょ。
なんでみんなうちのことを前原屋敷って呼ぶんですか？
だって現にお屋敷じゃない。お金持ちが羨ましいわ。
As she spoke, Takano-san pulled the handbrake and stepped on the gas. After making a skillful U-turn using the shoulder of the road, she steadily increased in speed. From the rear-view mirror, that accursed place seemed to melt into the darkness.
誰だ？
え？すみません。よく聞こえませんでした。今なんて？
Takano-san suddenly tried to say something to me, but thoughtlessly, I didn't catch it. Looking ahead, Takano-san said the same thing one more time.
したい。
え？
上手に埋められた？
Does this surprise anyone that she knew? I thought my heart might beat out of my chest, but I didn't let it show. But my lungs were squeezed tight, and I couldn't breathe.
何を言ってるんですか？
こういう山奥に死体を埋めるときはね、結構深く掘らないと野犬とかが匂いを嗅ぎつけて掘り返しちゃうことも多いのよ。野犬がくわえてた人骨で事件が発覚。警察一帯を山狩りへなんて結構ないことじゃないのよ。
huge rusted bells start ringing in my head. Had I buried it so deep that I could say it was absolutely wouldn't be found? The answer was no. I was in such a rush to bury him and get it over with that I couldn't deny having possibly buried it too close to the surface. No, wait. That's not... Wait. Anyway. This woman... How does she know? She just passed by here in her car by coincidence. And we ran into each other by coincidence. If she had been watching the entire thing from the trees, and once I left, she came back in her car? It didn't make logical sense. So then, why? Keiichi Maebara, that's it. You need to kill her. My entire body reawakened, and I could feel my pupils dilate. I couldn't possibly beat her to death with the shovel in such a small car. Then I would use my hands and strangle her. But she was driving right now. If I strangled her, we might get into an accident. Then suddenly, Takano-san turned and looked at me. For a moment I was surprised. What was she talking about? Takano-san said, disappointed, returning her gaze ahead. I repeated the words she said a few times in my head and finally realized she meant it as an off-color joke. I don't know whether it was really a joke, but I wouldn't be able to fool her, no matter how many lies I told. Right now, with her driving the car like this, I couldn't kill her. I would have an even harder time doing it when we got back to my house. That moment we met, that had been my best chance. And to have missed it so easily, it hurt. After that, Takano-san didn't say a single word. The car was completely buried in an almost suffocating silence. What kind of woman had I run into? With everything that happened today, I managed to pull it off, and at the very end of it all, I just had to go home and go back to sleep. What bad luck. As my sleepiness gradually overtook me, the anxiety I felt steadily started to matter less and less. Is this alright, Keiichi Maebara? You probably should not leave this woman alive. Right now, I'm tired. She stepped on the brakes and I jerked against my seatbelt. That woke me up. I thought I must have fallen asleep by accident. I looked out the window and there was a big building with faint lights on. It was really dark out, but I knew immediately that it was my house.
Bakaにしないでください。それに、ほら、もう大丈夫です。一人で歩けますから。
あらあら、さっきは痛そうな顔して肩まで借りたのに。ひょっとしてお姉さんに甘えてみたかったから？
As Takano-san spoke, she left the car and opened up her umbrella. The sound of falling raindrops was fierce, as always. I carefully reached down and rubbed the ankle I'd twisted. There was still some pain and a little weirdness, but they weren't that bad anymore. Rather than being happy about how light the wound was, I first regretted this whole thing. If I hadn't twisted my ankle, I could have still taken the option of killing Takano-san right then and there. There probably wasn't much doubt that Takano-san was convinced I was involved in some sort of crime. Yeah, let's hope she actually does try to break into the shrine. If she knew about everything happening with Satoko, then she might have even guessed I'd killed somebody. Takano-san opened the passenger side door for me.
本当に肩は必要ないかしら？ もう一回だけ甘えてもいいのよ。
I ignored her and answered by getting out of the car by myself. The rain was still pretty intense. I got my bicycle out of the back seat. I was a bit curious who the other bike belonged to, but that didn't matter right now. I let Takano-san hold the umbrella over me, then pushed my bicycle up to the front door.
ありがとうございます。もうここまでで大丈夫です。
My ankle hurt so much earlier, and it still did, but it aggravated me that it hadn't even been that bad. I was really, seriously, terrible luck.
じゃあ私はこれで失礼するわね。前原くんと二人きりで夜のドライブだったなんてみんなには内緒よ。
Uh-huh. So who did you bury in the woods?
特に二郎さんにはね。
Uh-huh. Jiru-san? Oh, she meant Tomataki-san. I suppose she calls him by his first name. His full name must be Jiro Tomataki then. And then the other bike, the folding one in the back seat that I didn't care about at first, suddenly came to mind. Hey, excuse me, you're from Hinamizawa, right? On the day before yesterday, as I walked near the dam, half asleep, Tomataki-san had talked to me. And the bicycle he'd been riding, it was...
あの後ろに積んであった自転車、富武さんのですよね。
Takano-san's eyes, I think they sharpened for a moment.
どうしてそう思うのかし
以前に会った時見てますから。フレームも特徴的でしたし。
ら。
Oh crap, you killed Tomataki, didn't you?
でもおかしくないかしら。この自転車が二郎さんのものだなんてことありえると思う？
おかしいって。
Takano-san, her hair elegantly fluttering, peers into my eyes.
だってひなみ沢には民宿なんてないのよ。なら二郎さんは町に泊まっていることになるわよね。
そうなんですか？まあ、そうならそうなんじゃないですか？
町からひなみ沢まではとても歩いてなんか行き来できないわよね。バスだって走ってないし。せめて自転車くらいはなきゃね。
She didn't need to tell me that. That's why Jiro-san was riding a bike.
その二郎さんの自転車が私の車に積んであって。
Yes, we know you're sleeping together, big deal.
二郎さんは私の車に乗っていないならおかしいじゃない。
And we know you probably killed him now.
二郎さんはひなみ沢で自転車なしってことになっちゃうわよ。二郎さんを放っておいて自転車だけが私の車に積んであるなんてね。ありえないでしょう。
As she spoke, Takano-san made eyes like a hawk. Unfortunately, I didn't really understand what was so odd.
それの何がおかしいんですか？高野さんは富武さんとは仲がいいんですよね。何かのようで自転車を積んであげたって別におかしいことだとは思わないですけれど。
そうじゃないでしょう。つまりこのひなみ沢において二郎さんとその自転車がバラバラに存在することはありえないということなのよ。以上の理由からこの自転車が二郎さんのものであるわけがない。
Uh-huh. Or his body's in the trunk of your car. That's why the trunk's full.
理解できたかしら？
Takano-san's roundabout way of talking was hard to comprehend, but that eeriness I could feel, that vague dreadfulness, I didn't like it at all. But the most wild, instinctive part of me warned me not to pry.
あれは私の自転車なのよ。二郎さんに選んでもらったから。
あ、そうだったんですか。道理で似てると。
Uh-huh.
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
Agreed. And now she was talking about something completely different.
何を言ってるんですか。
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
You know, that actually works out for us. I stayed there, not knowing what to say, and Takano-san repeated her eerie, succinct phrase to me again.
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
Yeah, I want to bring up a point, Keiichi. This is the part where you usually get into trouble. Please just kind of realize you're tired and want to go to bed. Please, kind of stop here with her.
私とあなたは出会わなかった。
Something cold and unpleasant crawled up my spine. I knew because I'd killed a person with my own hands before. I came to the conclusion that I only had one chance to beat this woman to death to keep her quiet, and I couldn't hesitate. So I could tell that she'd arrived at the very same conclusion. My instincts warned me again. I wish I'd never met this woman. The faint sense, like a rotten smell drifting from this woman, was no doubt the exact same sense that I was giving off right now. The very peculiar aspiration, the lack of uncertainty of taking a human's life for a purpose, one that only those who have risen above everything had. Actually, maybe I should have called it a nausea. It meant, and I didn't know how to explain this very well, but Takano-san was the same as me. In other words, someone who shouldn't have been here. Someone I couldn't have let anybody know was here. Someone who nobody would have wanted to see. And now that we could calmly pretend as though we had never met. Yeah. Which meant that just like I wanted to have nothing else to do with her, she didn't want anything to do with me either. And she, too, wanted to make it so we'd never met. Both of us wished for the same thing. Our desires were the same, which meant Takano-san's suggestion was extremely practical, and that I couldn't outright refuse.
それでいいなら、そういうことでもいいです。俺と高野さんは今夜出会わなかった。
そうよね。あなたにとってもその方がいいでしょうから。
どうしてそう思うんですか。
いちいちうるさいわね。それくらい自分で考えられないの、坊や。
She cut me off with the condescending word boy, right in front of my house, in the place most unsuited to killing. And yet there was a frozen thirst for blood coming from both of us. I would be killed right here, right now. Yeah. Then I should have definitely beaten her as we passed each other. A damp, greasy sweat broke out of my body. That's fine. If you want me, then you can come any time. And when I made up my mind, she shook her hair elegantly and turned on her heel.
よかったわね。私が優しい人で。
What was good? How? Because she was a kind person? Was that it? I didn't get it. Takano-san got into her car. We didn't exchange any words of parting. I had performed a massive feat, the killing of Satoko's uncle, and yet I didn't feel any accomplishment. On the holy night of Oyashiro-sama's curse, on which the taking of another's life was allowed. On the terribly rainy night when the demons wandered, as the agents of Oyashiro-sama's will. The demons were never supposed to meet, but suddenly they did. The demons parted ways triumphantly. There was no reason for them to fight. Both their objectives had already been accomplished. With the rain hitting me like a waterfall, my eyes met with Takano-san's through the car window. The female demon, her mouth twisted into a distorted, fearless smile. It was too late to kill her. Far too late. That first moment, the very first moment we saw each other, had been my best chance. And now that we parted like this, I was acutely aware of it. I should not have let her live. She beeped her horn quickly, then her car drove away into the deluge. The one woman who knew what really happened tonight disappeared into the dark. As long as she was alive, this night would never really end. Just get into an accident, I thought to myself. In this downpour, slip on some mud or something and fly face first into a tree and die. That wasn't a delusion, a wild flight of fantasy. It was an earnest wish. Yeah, it was a command. Die. Die. And keep your mouth shut for eternity. Because I have no doubt you're wishing for me to die all the same. My curse upon her faded emptily as Takano-san's taillights disappeared into the utter darkness. Her car's lights were completely out of sight now. Even the sound of the engine faded into the sound of the heavy rain, and was inaudible now. I too turned on my heel, to draw the curtains on this insane night. To open my front door and end it all. I began walking towards the front door. I was covered in mud, and I made a squishing sound with every step I took. Squish, squish. Don't worry, Keiichi Maebara. She'll die. Her end will be as miserable as she is. I'll throw her into some flames alive and let her dance until she's burned to a crisp. I'll burn her to ashes in the fires of hell itself until she's roasted as much as she deserves.
そう願うぜ。本気でな。
Huh? Just now, I hadn't taken a step, and yet, a footstep. Without emotion, I turned around. If there was a footprint that wasn't my own, then it was obvious someone else was behind me. Was somebody else there? I was sick of this. Whoever it was, I was sick of everything tonight. This time, I would kill them. I'd kill them without a second thought. I wouldn't hesitate to turn around and dig another hole. But fortunately, there was nobody there. I wasn't going to have to kill any more people tonight. This night, I couldn't handle any more of it. Even if I heard an extra footstep each time I stopped, I put it down to me just being tired. Is this chapter finally over? Oh, good. Taking extra steps. Fire from hell.
はい、もしもし。救急ですか？消防ですか？
消防です。
Huh?
火事ですか？事故ですか？落ち着いて話してください。
多分火事だと思います。こちらは中部高速の柿内サービスエリアなんですけどね。裏の山からなんだかすっごい火と煙が上がってるのが見えるんですよ。あんなところ誰も立ち入らないからなんで火がついてるのかよくわかんないですけど、とにかく連絡した方がいいと思って。山火事にならないとも限らないし。
わかりました。 すぐに現場を確認しますので、そちら様のお名前とすぐに連絡のつく電話番号、それから火災現場の詳細な場所をお願いします。
消防司令部より通達。 G ブロック西側山斜面にて不審火の通報あり。街道から離れていることからカップルの焚き火か不法投棄のゴミに放火したかの可能性があります。現場は深い森林地帯、周辺に民家はないが延焼の可能性あり。直ちに現場を確認されたし。
消防署ですか。こちらは G ブロック第3消防分隊です。通報の現場にさっき到着。ドラム缶が一つ山中に放棄され炎上しているのを確認しました。火は鎮火しつつあり、延焼の可能性はなしで、そのドラム缶の中に多分人じゃないかと思うんです。
Wasn't that how Takano died last chapter? Wasn't that how she died in the last game?
その警察の人にも連絡した方がいいんじゃないかと思いまして。間違いねえよ。これ人だよ。
Yeah.
今年のタタリってことっすかね。
そういうことになるんですかね。毎年いろんな殺し方を見せてくれますが、今年は特に際立っていますね。
自分で自分の喉をかき破るなんて普通じゃないっす。
So someone still clawed out their own throat.
あとは鑑識のじい様に任せましょう。きっと何かの怪しげな薬物を検出してくれるに違いありません。
お疲れ様です。お疲れ様です。
ああ、おいさん、小宮山さんたちが到着しました。
大石さん、お疲れ様です。今年は一頭来てるのが出たらしいじゃないですか。
裏を書かれました。私はてっきり今夜知るのは北条哲平だとばかり思ってたんですがね。
Well, you weren't wrong.
仏は何者です？
富武二郎。年に何回かひなみ沢に来てる趣味の写真家さんです。
You weren't wrong, Weishi. You weren't wrong about that.
ノーマークだったな。
So he wasn't in the betting pool then, I take it.
どうなんでしょうね。北条宅にずっと張り付いてたのがバレて、ターゲットを変更したとか。
He dies every time. He is Yamcha.
かなあ。恨めったな。
So wait, you were watching The Residents, and you didn't see Teppei Hojo just sprint out and get on his motorcycle and leave?
で、北条哲平の方は何も問題なし。
ねえ、夕方頃に娘が祭りに出かけて、その少し後にバイクで出かけまして。先に娘が帰ってきて、あれまだ帰ってないかな。どっかで飲んだくれてるのかな。
大石さんいらっしゃいますか。高杉課長からです。1号車の無線にお願いします。
Yep. If only they knew. He might know now. He might know now. Okay, so I am going to be right back. For my cup is now completely empty thanks to the throat issues I was having earlier. Yeah. So I'll be back in a minute. Get the music started for you guys. Enjoy.